Hello, I'm Merrily Rosine Beasley, and I've gathered some activities together today. Some of them are for things that will be fun for children. Some are looking at being a little bit frugal, and some of those things are for Mother's Day. So anyway, just let's get started. I did go to Dollar Tree yesterday, and I do have some children that have been at my house, and one of them requested some chalk. So this is something that you can do on a sidewalk, and kids love to do things like play hopscotch, which I hadn't even thought about in years, and a friend of mine mentioned that her daughter and another child were going to play hopscotch, which I thought sounded like fun. I do go to one of the neighborhood stores. There's a Dollar Tree in my neighborhood, and I like to see what they have. And they often have stickers that I think are fun. I think I got this little booklet at Dollar Tree or somewhere else. Here was some things that had to do with some stickers that are letters. And then I got these books. Here's Animal World. Here's Planet Earth. That would be fun to read with a child, or maybe they are old enough to read. I also worked as a school nurse at a Houston ISD school, and they had things that they weren't going to use, and this was one of the items. These are called Cuisenaire Rods, and they are developed with the idea that these are units. And for instance, this is the smallest unit, and then two of these makes this unit. And so this is a visual way that children or whoever is interested could learn to combine them and see visually how they look and get an idea about the way that things and the relationship that they are. So this is a very wonderful tool. A lot of children have seen these, but they look more like Legos. They're like plastic. But this is the wooden set that I happen to have. So anyway, that's just an idea, because I like to look for things that parents might use, and this would be good for when you're looking at mathematics, and they're bright colors, so they're really fun to look at. Now, I was at Hobby Lobby yesterday. I'm glad that Hobby Lobby is open, and I splurged and I saw this magnetic puzzle. So these items are in the shape of the states, and this would be fun for a person to play around with, a child who might be learning a little bit about states, or maybe they just like the colors and start putting them together and learn where they are, because United States is a very large area, and so it would be fun, and they would have this. And so that's something that like I said, I splurged yesterday. Now, something that I want to mention to everybody is Florence Nightingale was essentially a homeschooled daughter. In those days, when people had money, they hired tutors, they hired women who were like governesses, and so that essentially is what homeschooling is. So I want to tell you about a book. It's been on my website for a while, and it's about a family that became very successful with homeschooling, and I highly recommend looking at this book. It's called The Brady Bunch, and it's written by Kip and Mona Lisa Harding, and it's their story and their children. They have several children, so I want to recommend that. Then another book that I found out about is called, and it's about what's called unschooling. And this one is titled Hacking Your Education. And so this is a very thought-provoking book. And so if you're interested in looking at what some people call unschooling, this would be good, especially for those students who have more of an entrepreneurial bent. When you become a nurse or you become a dentist, doctor, if you're in certain professions, you do need to be licensed. So this is more for entrepreneurial type endeavors. So I highly recommend looking and thinking about this concept. Now, one of my favorite stores besides Hobby Lobby and Dollar Tree is a place in Houston called the Homeschool Store. And that is a large building that has just everything you could ever think of. I have to go in there and kind of limit myself because I'd like to buy half of the store. So I would like to highly recommend the Homeschool Store in Houston. If you live somewhere else, there may be a similar store near you, and it may be that the Homeschool Store would ship their things to you. I don't know. I haven't asked that question. So anyway, I just want to recommend thinking about homeschooling, especially right now. A lot of parents essentially are homeschooling their children, and they didn't know they were going to be doing that. Another thing, a book that's one of my favorites, it's on my website already, is called Ikigai, and it's all about, it's focusing on the people who live in Okinawa. Those people are very into gardening. They live for a long time. There's 5 places in the world that are called they're called the blue zones. And researchers are looking at why they're living longer, and they're noticing they do a lot of walking. They eat better. They have a very strong sense of community. They don't stress about everything. And in Okinawa, they have these gardens. They eat a rainbow of colors, and they celebrate everything. So anyway, Ikigai is a book. I found it at Barnes & Noble, and I just really highly recommend this book. All right, so also another book that I would recommend, this is somebody I know that lives here in Houston, William Toft. Bill ran for Congress many years ago, and he wrote this book, The Little Red Book on the Little Red Constitution. So it has a lot of information about the Constitution, and I highly recommend this book. Another book that I bought many years ago, and some people are familiar with Marva Collins. She was just an amazing, person that believed that children had a lot more potential than most people realized. So I highly recommend reading about her, reading up on her. So Marva Collins. I also have lately been buying. When I'm out, I will see some of these National Geographic featured books, whatever they are. This one happens to be 50 Most Influential Figures in the Bible. I got this one recently, The Queens of Egypt. I got this one, that caught my eye, on Cosmos, Possible Worlds. So anyway, these have a lot of amazing pictures. And this is, would be very stimulating to have students read this. I also, from time to time, buy a lot of used National Geographic so that kids can cut things up, make posters. Sometimes I've bought them at places like Half Price Books and even paid like 50 cents. Usually I pay $1. So that's just a recommendation. Something else that I want to point out is that there's a lot of things that are just on the ground. I found this in I found some of these. I don't yet know what this is. I don't know if it's something, I just don't know, but it's been on the ground. It's a lot of twigs from my trees fall down. This is a bark from, we had some pine trees cut down last year. I just thought that was interesting, so I saved that. And then one thing I've noticed is I have a lot of rocks in my yard that, and a lot of people around here like to put rocks in their yards. And sometimes I've noticed that when they break open, there's very interesting things inside. So there's things all around, like rocks, different rocks. If your child might be interested in rocks, you can do some research, because rocks are collections of minerals. These are some shells that I bought for something I was going to do. I believe I got it at Dollar Tree for $1, and it's got different kind of shells in there. It looks to me like these are from the Philippines, and this is something that if your child might be interested in shells. It happens that here in Houston, we have a really beautiful collection of shells at the museum down in the museum district. So I highly recommend. I believe those were like $1 at Dollar Tree. One of the things that I like to do is I like to start cuttings of plants and things like that. And it happens that my church has this plant, and somebody said, why don't you take a few home? So I did, and I started rooting them, putting them in water. Around here, this plant is called Wandering Jew. Somebody told me where he's from in Pakistan, they call it the money plant. So anyway, I have rooted a lot of these. I've given some of them away, and you have to be careful. I keep mine in a pot because I understand they'll just take over. They just grow so easily. And since Mother's Day is coming up, I also have a lot of this kind of plant. So you could, here's a bottle. I like ginger ale, and this is the ginger ale bottle. So this could be something where you could give somebody a plant in it. You could also do that. Another thing that I have is I happen to have some onions, and I went ahead and I used the top of it, and I realized I could go ahead and put these in water, and I'm going to be cutting those and treating them like they're just green onions. So I'll put those in this, maybe something that I cook. Now, I like to buy a bouquet of flowers, and then I like to do a couple of things. One is I will take the bouquet, and these will be big bouquets, and put them into other containers, so I'll have them in more than one place. Then as these flowers wilt, I will trim them and put them in a different vase or whatever. And these little chrysanthemums are getting, pretty. These are probably today, maybe the last day. But I have a small little container like this, so I'm going to put this like that, and I can put it by my bed. And I like fresh flowers. This is also something you could do for Mother's Day. You could get a big bouquet and make several arrangements. Do that. Another thing you could do is Dollar Tree has a lot of containers. They have a lot of inexpensive type of flowers and containers, and I got this ribbon at Dollar Tree. They have it in different colors, so you could very quickly make something, a little floral arrangement. Pick something out that's looks like spring, and just put something in, just play around with it. And these are just here, but I would probably get a floral foam, which they do sell at Dollar Tree, and make smaller ones. And here's one that I could put a floral foam in, and then put some of these flowers. So these are just some ideas. Now, as some of you know, I like to make glass art. So the first one I did was this one. And I do it in Florida, Destin, Florida area. There's a shop there called the Shard Shop, and they hold classes. And what this is the glass. This is a thing, just a regular thing from that you can get at Michael's. This canvas, and this one was pre-painted. I picked it up. I liked the color, and this is just a paint pen to give you the illusion of trees. So I just threw some things on there, and just you have fun with it. I added a few other little things. This one here I did. I think I did it last summer. This one I had seen two different picture of a beach and a little thing with a palm tree, so I kind of went with that idea. They have all colors of glass, and they have shells, and just a lot of different things. And then these right here are actually painted white clear glass that helped make clouds. And then one of the assistant was helping me, and she had this glass that she took nippers. They give you nippers to work with. So anyway, we just played around with it for a while. She helped me with some ideas because I didn't know they had this flat brown glass, which worked out really well. Makes it look like a palm tree. I am currently saving these glass bottles like this. I'm saving everything that I accidentally broke this vase recently, so I just put it in to the container, and I'm just going, and all the little pieces, I accidentally dropped this glass, so this will go, at some point will go into some kind of artwork. This is a mug that I developed custom made, and now unfortunately it fell down, so I'll incorporate that at some point. So whatever I have that I can save for another day. I will eventually turn this in. The woman who started this makes amazing giant pieces, and it is just remarkable, all the stuff that she does. A couple other things I want to point out here is right now parents are home with their children. So one of the things they could do with their children right now is they could make a little journal, maybe have their child write down things that they're doing. I happen to get these at Dollar Tree, but you could make your own little notebook and just keep a diary of some things you're doing. Maybe you can walk outdoors. You could keep track of some things that you see in nature, and there's just all kinds of things you can do. Something else that I want to point out that would be quick for a gift, like for Mother's Day, would be to make some cards. I keep a lot of stickers on hand. I like cardstock, and then what I did here is I folded it in half and put 3 of these little flowers here, and then I could write something for Mother's Day on here. I could say Happy Mother's Day there and write something inside. Just your imagination. I happen to they have these little butterflies. Sometimes they've had them in different colors. So you just use your imagination and just play around with that. One of the other things that I saw recently at Dollar Tree, I believe it was Dollar Tree, they had these cookbooks. They were $1, just simple salad ideas, something about grilling. I've got one that's about soups. So there's lots of things. They're all around. Now that the stores are starting to open up, Hobby Lobby's open. Of course, Barnes & Noble, fortunately, has been open for a while. Maybe the libraries will be open, or maybe you might have friends that you could get with and you could share some books so that you don't have to spend a lot of money on books. As a child, I always went to the library a lot. I still do. I actually sometimes get the donated books, give them a little donation, and use some donated books in the branch library that's near Jersey Village where I live. Always has children's books, and there's been some really excellent books that people donate, and I'll give a donation. And then I, as an adult, sometimes I've read a book, paid a donation and returned it, and then I figure I'm sort of renting the book, and then they can, somebody else might come another day and get the same book that I gave back. So anyway, these are just some ideas to be frugal, to have fun with your children now that they're home. Of course, the summer is coming, and it's not just going to be the 3 months of the summer that parents are going to need to entertain their children. All the rest of the year around here, school's been canceled. So these are just some ideas that perhaps to help you be more frugal, teach your kids how to think, about what else we can do. I do want to emphasize, and I've been talking about it, it's always being prepared for an emergency, because you just never know. Here in Jersey Village, we've had 4 major floods in Houston. The Houston area, we've had many floods, many hurricanes. So there's a list here of things that I recommend buying, and you don't have to buy them all at once. I bought a few of them a while back, and I bought a few at Dollar Tree. I bought a few at some other places, and my husband went on a trip to Alaska, and I gave him my emergency pack. So I do recommend that you keep an emergency pack in every single vehicle that you have. So I do need to rebuild my emergency pack. I do highly recommend that you always have 6 months worth of food on hand, and just buy some dried beans, different kinds of dried beans, honey, some canned goods, tuna fish, whatever your family likes. Maybe if your family likes peanut butter, that would be great. Keep on hand dried rice. There's just different things to keep thinking about, and you don't have to buy everything in one week. But you want to get a few staples, because in Jersey Village we have flooded, and there was one time a few years ago where we had no electricity here for at least 5 days. Now, I was actually headed for out of town. My family was still in Jersey Village. So you really need to think about, what if we didn't have electricity for 6 months? What would happen? Because you just never know. Now, 100 years ago, people lived without a lot of electricity. I'm not sure exactly when it started becoming more common. People 200 years ago, they didn't have electricity, and so forth. You know, it wasn't, these things weren't developed yet. And so just think, people, American Indians, they always knew what to do. They always prepared. And so you just always think about, we need shelter, we need water, we need food, and then we figure everything else out. And so everybody, all the American Indians, the pioneers, whoever, they always adapted. So these are just things that you could do with your kids, build up a few things. Anyway, I hope that these are ideas that will help you, and have a blessed day.